Hello, so today I am going to talk about my first job. I completed it 3 days ago on August 14th. I was hired close to the end of May. Um, so it was at this country club, the Padonia Park Club in the state that I live. This is the shirt that I wore every day there because they had on the day I went in for the quote unquote training, that was 2 days before my first day. Uh, I was told to purchase the appropriate outfit for their club. I decided to buy just one shirt and I hand washed it myself prior to each day that I went in. And this is that very shirt. So I ended up doing this for the 50-day stretch that I was there. It wasn't consecutive, of course. I got to have 2 days off each week. What's funny is that since I had a dentist appointment like the second week that I was there, and I had to ask for Tuesday off, they gave me Tuesday and Wednesday off that week, and then I ended up with Tuesday and Wednesday off every week, pretty much. Few exceptions. I did take a vacation after my 40th day with my family. Had a fun time going up to New England. So that was our fun summer trip. But most of the summer was actually spent at this job. May 31st was the first day I reported in, August 14th the last. The average was 9 hours per day. The role I took on was that of a dishwasher, actually. I had been looking around for a job, and this particular country club, it's not too far from my place. No, it's within half an hour. So and we'd previously gone there as guests, or as like 1 year members, stuff like that. So I was familiar with it. So I managed to get hired. They were very nice in letting me have this first job. And it paid very decently too, considering that it was a first job and a dishwasher position. And it was an eye-opening experience, I must say. So I mainly worked at this installation they have there called the Grill, right? It's this eatery. It's their primary by-the-pool eatery. And they serve, some typical American fare, some certain items like that. They have pizzas and salads and chicken tenders, burgers, sandwiches, and they even have these pretzels. They had a particularly naughty thing where they would have a crab pretzel, which they actually had me help make a couple of times. They would stuff crab in the upper side of a pretzel and then put cheese on it. I never got it, but that's so gooey. And the role of dishwasher was more than just doing the dishes, actually. Me and this one other guy had it, this fellow named Sam. He's actually only about 6 months younger than me. Very good fellow. Came to be acquaintances, at least. I think I managed to make a good impression on everyone. In fact, I know I did because people were saying that of me, so I'm grateful for that. Yeah, most of the people who worked there were middle-aged folks. There were a couple of younger people. A lot of people they had were these temporary cooks. They had people to cook on their line at the grill from a third party that would assign them tasks and stuff. So for a while there was a high turnover rate, but there were a few people who they thought were good and had to keep on. There were not that many other people who were hired on directly by Padonia for the whole season. This fellow named Stewart, who I thought very highly of, was one. He ended up taking on the role of the under supervisor at the place. Even though he said he was just a fry cook, it kind of fell on him. there was this other fellow named Ben who did a lot of the cooking at their other location they have up top. See, it's this fun place called the Chateau. They had lots of events they catered there. In fact, there was at one point in early July a wedding that was held there, and I stayed to do a lot of the dishes for that. I stayed till like 9:30. That was the latest I'd stayed. Although last week that I was there were a couple of times where I stayed till near or past 10, and that was my latest. And that was like 11.5 hour shift one day, almost 11 hours the next. So that was the longest that I stayed. A lot of the times I would end up being technically staying overtime because what happened is they are open from like noon to 8 on the Fridays and Saturdays, which is their busiest days, right? And then they were just noon to 7 on all the other days. So my shifts sometimes were slightly misaligned with that, like 11 to 8 is the typical shift, so that's perfect for the 12 to 7 times that they're open, helping to set up, helping to clean up. But then if it's for 12 to 8, I would have to stay later. Sometimes they gave me 12 to 9 shifts. So it was quite an experience seeing the different hours that I would end up working and division of tasks, because while we were there, it seemed clear to me that no place must have a perfect system of doing things. When you're a kid, you never see this sort of thing, or if you do, you don't understand it fully. But now that I'm entering the workforce, like I have for this first time, as I said, you begin to see the flaws that are prevalent in any position. It's like they didn't have enough storage space for everything, or it was not properly done. So that was a challenge we had to contend with, and there was a point of diminishing marginal returns for tasks, because sometimes me and Sam would be there at the same time, and since we did a lot of the supplemental work, like preparing some of the minor foods if we had to, but more often just making portion cups, sweeping, making boxes that they used up front, stuff like that, taking out used food boxes from the delivery trucks. Yeah, we would end up either one or both of us would be in a pickle with not so much tasks to do, and Sam unfortunately was a little less creative than I was in figuring out how to stay busy, so unfortunately he ended up annoying some of the other employees there, and he was a good fellow to me, so I stuck up for him as best I could, and it worked out because the supervisor there, this chef named Liz, she's one of the few people who works there a long time, right? Worked there like 20 years. Then this other fellow, Tyler, worked there 10 years. But a lot of them are just on for the season like me and Sam were, because I'm probably not going back to that job, but it was still a very good experience nonetheless. I learned a lot. I stuck up for Sam as best I could, discussed it with the other employees, so I think I may have spared him at least some trouble, some grief with them, because I discussed it with Liz, and she agreed with my assessment of what his reference should be, which was that, he just, as long as he gets guidance, he'll do fine. So yeah, did the best I could with that. And there was this one time, the day before I left for that trip with my family, this one of the line cooks that they had temporarily, he had this outburst, right? And he was a guy who'd been there several weeks, so I kind of knew him. I was surprised. It didn't occur to me that he would have him, but he was yelling at the guy Stewart I mentioned earlier, mouthing off at him, and so it's like, I ain't going to take no disrespect, nor should he have. So that was eye-opening to see the tensions that can be hidden sometimes in a workplace, and they boil to the surface like that. Because I mean, he wasn't hired directly by Bedonia, so they were not technically firing him, but Bedonia made it clear that that fella wasn't coming back to our line for the rest of the season. So yeah, that was quite a way to go, unfortunately. But they were good at treating us well for our first position and gradually introducing more complexities to the job. I would mainly focus on doing the dishes at first, but I managed to learn how to do them better and do other tasks over time. So it was good. Most of the time what happened was there was at least some dishes at the start of the day, because I would come in a little after everybody else. They would be prepping food and stuff like that, and I would have to clean what I call the first wave of dishes. And sometimes there's intermittent dishes throughout the day, but the real work is the end wave, is what I termed it, when it's the end of the day after they've closed down, not taking any orders anymore, and there's a ton of dishes that come in. So that was the real meat, and that was the real work, meat and potatoes, as you would say, the real work of it. And I learned to adapt to that, and eventually I did well. So I parted amicably with the folks at Bedonia, and it was good. So that's how my first job went, and basically this summer, because now that the job and trip are done, I'll be heading back to college in a couple of weeks for try number 2, because I'd rather not talk about what happened last year. It's really something, but here's to the rest of 2021. That's what's happened so far. I may not have mentioned everything here, but I've given you a number of details about it. Since I'm a small-time channel, saying people's names shouldn't give any information away, because I keep myself anonymous. Obviously, I'm not in front of the camera. Nobody, unless you personally know me or you're oddly obsessed and go out of your way with super skills to find me, knows who I am. So I think I'm fine just saying people's first names. But if anything ever does get compromised, I apologize. But I've done all I can by staying anonymous as I am to take precautions. So yeah, that's how my first job went. Good day.